The largest cruise ship in the world, the icon of the seas, stands 20 decks high. It is essentially a 250,000-ton steel skyscraper, except it has no foundation. It sits on a surface that is constantly moving, tilting, and shifting. When a rogue wave hits its side or 7,000 passengers run to one side, the ship doesn't flip. In fact, it barely wobbles. Most people think ships stay upright because they are heavy at the bottom. But if you place a heavy steel bowl on water, it floats. Add a tiny bit of weight to one side and it capsizes instantly. Steel is nearly 8 times denser than water. By all laws of common sense, a ship should be a sinking anchor or a flipping coin. The reason it isn't comes down to an invisible tug-of-war between 2 points that don't actually exist. To understand stability, you have to track 2 moving targets. The first is the center of gravity, or point G. This is the average location of all the weight on the ship. Fuel, engines, steel plates, and passengers contribute to this point. The second point is the center of buoyancy, or point B. This is the geometric center of the underwater portion of the hull. Gravity pulls point G down. Buoyancy pushes point B up. As long as these two are perfectly aligned, the ship stays level. But the ocean is never level. When a wave tilts the ship, point G stays put because the internal weight hasn't moved. However, the shape of the submerged hull changes. More of the right side is now underwater, and the left side has lifted out. This shift moves point B, the center of the displaced water, to the side. This creates what engineers call a righting lever, known technically as the GZ value. The upward force of the water pushes on this lever that tries to rotate the ship back to its upright position. But there is a limit. A vertical line drawn upward from the new point B creates the metacenter, or point M. The distance between the center of gravity and the metacenter is called the GM height. This is the most important number in naval architecture. If the GM is large, the ship has a massive righting lever. It wants to be upright so badly that it snaps back instantly when hit by a wave. We call this a stiff ship. While safe from capsizing, it is brutal for passengers and cargo. The violent snapping can tear heavy machinery from its bolts. If the GM is too small, the ship is tender. It rolls slowly and takes a long time to return to center. This is a pilot's nightmare, as a single gust of wind could hold the ship at a permanent tilt. To manage this GM height, engineers use a complex network of ballast tanks. Deep in the double bottom of the hull are massive steel chambers. When a ship unloads 50,000 tons of cargo, its center of gravity rises dangerously high. To bring it back down, high-capacity pumps flood the bottom tanks with seawater. But water inside a ship can be a silent killer. If a tank is only 70% full, the water sloshes to the side during a roll. This is the free surface effect. As the ship tilts, the water moves with it, shifting the weight and effectively raising the center of gravity. To stop this, engineers build internal baffles, steel walls with small holes that break the momentum of the moving water. Beyond passive weight, modern ships use active stabilization. If you look below the waterline of a modern cruise liner, you will see stabilizer fins. These act like underwater airplane wings. Using gyroscopic sensors, the ship detects a roll before the passengers even feel it. The fins adjust their angle of attack in milliseconds. At high speeds, the water pressure on the fins creates enough lift to keep a 200,000-ton vessel perfectly level. For ships that are stationary, like oil rigs or drill ships, fins don't work because there is no water moving over them. Instead, they use anti-heeling systems. These use high-pressure air to blast water across a U-shaped tank from one side of the ship to the other. This massive internal weight shift counteracts the external forces of the wind or waves. However, There is a phenomenon that can bypass all these systems: parametric rolling. This happens when the length of the waves matches the length of the ship. As the ship moves through the crests and troughs, its stability actually changes second by second as the hull goes in and out of the water. In specific conditions, the roll can double in size with every wave, reaching 30 or 40 degrees in just a few minutes. This is how massive container ships lose hundreds of boxes into the ocean without ever hitting a storm. Another hidden danger is the squat effect. When a ship moves through shallow water, it creates a low-pressure zone underneath the hull. This sucks the ship deeper into the water, bringing the hull closer to the seafloor and shifting the center of buoyancy in ways the crew might not expect. Engineering can solve for physics, but it cannot solve for the chain of errors. In 1993, the MS John Huelius didn't just capsize because of a hurricane. It was a combination of a faulty ballast system, an improperly secured cargo of trucks, and a crew trying to maintain a schedule in impossible conditions. When the trucks broke loose and slid to one side, the center of gravity moved outside the stability curve. The ship's righting lever, its only defense, became a capsizing lever. When a ship reaches its angle of vanishing stability, physics stops trying to save it. For most large vessels, this is between 40 and 70 degrees. Once you cross that line, the tug of war is over. Gravity wins. As we build ships larger, ships like the icon of the seas that act as floating cities, the math becomes more precarious. We are building higher into the air while trying to keep the weight lower in the water. We are trusting that our sensors, our ballast pumps, and our understanding of the metacenter will hold. The only thing keeping 250,000 tons of steel from becoming a permanent part of the seafloor is a 3-foot gap between two invisible points in space. If those points ever touch, the ship is gone.